this is why some people are so dangerous to the movement, not only to the pro-Palestinian movement, but also to Black activism. Because if I was somebody else, if I haven't already done so much work for the Black community, if I didn't already have a deep understanding of racial dynamics, this entire experience might have pushed me away from the Black community. But I know that these rotten tomatoes in the community do not represent the Black.
I don't speak for us all, but I do speak for the rotten tomatoes when I say you can go. Consider yourself pushed, shoved. You are lucky that you were able to cobble together a group of Black people to go on that trip in the first place. After you nonsense, never Kamala, vote for Kamala as a vote for gender people shows your ass last November. Okay? Also, I don't believe you. I don't believe the beggars asking for money incident is the only instance of racism that they experience. I believe it's the most innocuous one that you strategically picked to minimize their concerns.
Can you imagine experiencing a very violent and swift G-side and still having the time to be racist? Specifically to people that came to help you, all because of the color of their skin. I wonder if she realizes what she has admitted to. Because we knew it and we were saying it and they were gaslighting us about this. But now she's simply come out and given us like straight up proof. But not only that, very blatant. She's very blatantly saying like, yes, this is what I'm saying. Suck it up. Get to work. And to specifically be like, we're winning the oppression Olympics. Babe, if you have time to be racist. Sorry. But seriously, like, if you still have time to be racist, no, you're not. And why would you want to? Why in the world would you want to? That's such a weird thing to say. In the midst of this horrible, swift G-side, you're like, we beat you out, actually. And, you know, you just have to suck it up. The racism is just, girl.
So there's a girl that made a horrible take concerning Black people that were experiencing anti-Blackness when they went to help Palestinians in Gaza. And she said she expected for these Black people to be allies to the Palestinians. And they were not allies, I guess, when they went to help. You know, I guess that didn't matter to her. No, those Black people that went to help the Palestinians, that basically got on planes and flew over to help the Palestinians, they're not allies. They didn't show their allyship then. She basically said that they proved that they weren't allies because they started complaining about the anti-Blackness that they were experiencing at the hands of the Palestinians, again, that they went to help, and said that those Black people were engaging in oppression Olympics. Now, it's a stupid take. It really is a not well thought out take. It really is a not well thought out take, but it exposes a couple of things about her. One, she doesn't actually value the opinions of Black people, because when these Black people started pointing out the anti-Blackness that they were experiencing, she again said that they were engaging in oppression Olympics and they should ignore the anti-Blackness that they were experiencing from Palestinians because it's different in Palestine. And how dare you, darky, point out the anti-Blackness that you're experiencing at the hands of the Palestinians when they are experiencing so much strife right now.
Hey my people, Gracie here once again. Welcome back to the channel. I hope that from wherever you, my lovelies, are watching this from, you're doing all right and God has protected you and preserved you very well. I do appreciate all of you that keep supporting. Thank you so very much for the super thanks, super charts, and to my members, special shout out to you guys because you support exclusively on here, and I do appreciate all of you. As always, we definitely have another one to look at. We have a Palestinian lady that took a group of Black Americans to Palestine to help and volunteer with the kids, and Black people were called slurs, and they noted that out, and this lady came out dismissive and silenced Black people that they were playing racial Olympics, victim Olympics, that they were busy victimizing themselves instead of focusing on people that were being oppressed the more in Palestine. And Black people have come out to respond to her because this is very disrespectful, considering the fact that Black people would even get out of their way and want to go and volunteer in your country when they know very well your people discouraged their people from voting the Vice President Kamala Harris, right? So we do have quite a number of responses, but we are going to look at her video that caused her a lot of backlash, and we look at the responses Black people gave as well. We'll come back and talk about it. Don't forget to subscribe if you're landing on here for your very first time. Let me know what you think and like the video, and credit again goes to the original creators. Let's watch this first, come back and talk about it.
I don't know what I was expecting from my trip to Palestine, but I certainly did not expect to walk away with racial tensions between myself and the Black people in our group. And that's really disappointing for me to admit, because I was so excited to go on this trip with Black Americans, because I was always under the impression that Black people will be our greatest allies because they understand more than anybody what it's like to live under occupation, what it's like to be oppressed and racially profiled. But during the trip, it felt like some people were too busy playing oppression Olympics to fully grasp the experiences of Palestinians living in Palestine. Some people came on the trip with a very limited understanding of the Palestinian people and the Palestinian cause, which is problematic in and of itself. But the most problematic thing was the fact that some people were applying a Western lens of racial dynamics to a place where it does not apply. I am not going to sit here and deny that anti-Blackness exists in every single part of the world. But the issue of race is much different in Palestine than in most other places in the world. In Palestine, Palestinians of all colors are undoubtedly the most oppressed people. In Palestine, a non-Palestinian Black person is more privileged than a Palestinian of any color. And an American, Black or white, is one of the most privileged people in Palestine, right beneath Israelis. Some people in the group were too busy victimizing themselves and taking out their anger on all the wrong people to sit with the reality that in modern day, there are some people that are more oppressed than them. One person in particular was incredibly problematic, especially considering she was one of the group leads who was hosting private conversations exclusively for the 7 Black people in the group, which under almost any other circumstances I would encourage. I encourage Black people to create safe spaces for themselves, to discuss racial issues among themselves. But the issue is that the only comments I heard come out of this person's mouth about Palestine and Palestinians were negative, were about how racist we are, were about how slavery persisted until the 20th century in Palestine, which is such an uneducated take, by the way. It was not exclusive to Black people, and it was not done mostly by Palestinians. So I believe these conversations being hosted by a person who came to Palestine with biases against Palestinians were so dangerous to Palestinians and ultimately to Black Palestinian solidarity. The most ironic part about all of this is the fact that we sat and had dinner with Afro-Palestinians in Palestine. We sat and broke bread with the family who runs the Afro-Pali Center in Jerusalem. And they are Black. They are visibly Black, and yet they are highly respected in the Palestinian community for the work that they do for Palestinians. We even talked to the chef at our hotel in the last couple of days, who was a political prisoner. He had just gotten out of prison 2 months before we arrived in Palestine. And he told us that he sat side by side with an Afro-Palestinian, son of the couple who runs the Afro-Pali Center. He sat with him in prison, and he was shocked when I asked him about racism in Palestine, because he was like, those are my brothers. I don't care what color they are. During this trip, I sat with Palestinians and I told them, talk to me bluntly. I'm a Palestinian. I'm not going to judge our community. Talk to me about racism in Palestine. And every single one of them was like, what is there to say? Like, racism exists in every community, yes. But in Palestine, it's actually few and far between, because the issue of race is so much more complicated in a place like Palestine. And I have been involved in Black activism for many years. And I know that when I am in Black spaces, it is not my place to call out issues within the Black community, especially when those people are being slaughtered. When I am in Black spaces, I am there to observe, to learn, to be an ally, not to call out Black people. By the way, these same people who sat there and talked all this shit about how racist Palestinians are did not hesitate to pose in front of a ginormous George Floyd mural painted by a Palestinian artist. They posed with that artist in front of the mural. And I bet they wouldn't dare look that artist in the face and say that he's racist. By the way, go support that artist. He's Banksy.2 on Instagram. He's an incredible person, incredible artist who I'm still in communication with. He is struggling right now. His daughter is in the hospital, so please reach out and try to help in any way that you can. But I refused to pose in that picture with the rest of the group because literally an hour before that, they were making fun of Palestinians. We passed a mural that was supposed to be, I believe, of Nelson Mandela, but it wasn't the greatest art. And so it kind of looked like George Floyd, and they couldn't tell who it was. And they literally said, "I'm so sick of these people." And yet they won't hesitate to pose in front of a George Floyd mural for a social media photo op. Even when we were about to walk into a masjid, there were beggars outside the masjid who asked some people for money. And she made a comment about how, oh, notice how they're not asking the Black people for money because they think all Black people are poor. And I said, you don't know that. Those same people didn't ask me, a Palestinian American, for money. They're not assuming I'm poor. In fact, when they know you're American, you're immediately up here to them. They immediately assume you have money and that you're privileged in ways that they'll never experience. The reason that they didn't ask some people for money had nothing to do with the fact that those people are Black. They simply just approached a few people out of the entire group asking for money. I could ramble about this for hours because it was one of the most frustrating things of my life to watch people come from America to a place like Palestine and act like they're more oppressed than people literally living under occupation. And it's so ironic because the entire time I'm trying to find parallels between the lives of Palestinians, between the racial profiling that I experienced as a Palestinian and the experiences of Black people in America. I thought that this would be an opportunity for us to come together and understand each other better, not to create more division. But this is why some people are so dangerous to the movement, not only to the pro-Palestinian movement, but also to Black activism. Because if I was somebody else, if I haven't already done so much work for the Black community, if I didn't already have a deep understanding of racial dynamics, this entire experience might have pushed me away from the Black community. But I know that these rotten tomatoes in the community do not represent the Black community as a whole. One of the most ironic parts about all of this is that before making this video, I was sitting in a cafe in Amman, journaling my thoughts about this topic, and I got interrupted by a waiter at the restaurant who asked me where I'm from, and we started chatting, and it turns out he is Jamaican and Palestinian. But ultimately, I think if you have internal biases against Palestinians, you should not be going to Palestine. And if you don't want to acknowledge the experiences of Palestinians in their entirety, then to be honest, we don't need you as an ally. Seeing what Palestinians are going through only makes you think, yeah, no, we have it worse. When you're an American, you are not a true ally. And I will be talking more about the issue of people taking trips to Palestine with a limited understanding of Palestinians and Palestinian history. Because there were so many other issues with some of the people who went on this trip for all the wrong reasons. I don't know what I
thought I'll take, but it exposes a couple of things about her. One, she doesn't actually value the opinions of Black people, because when these Black people started pointing out the anti-Blackness that they were experiencing, she again said that they were engaging in oppression Olympics and they should ignore the anti-Blackness that they were experiencing from Palestinians because it's different in Palestine. And how dare you, darky, point out the anti-Blackness that you're experiencing at the hands of the Palestinians when they are experiencing so much strife right now. That's the point, ma'am. That's what they were pointing out. How do they still have time for anti-blackness when they are literally experiencing an ongoing ethnic cleansing campaign? That's the point that those black people were pointing out to you, that even in all of the stuff that your people are going through, they still have time for anti-blackness. And you tried to make the argument that it resonates different in Palestine. It doesn't. Simply because there are black Palestinians doesn't mean that anti-blackness isn't the same. It's on the same accord all across all non-black communities. Every single black person knows that when they go into non-black communities, it is most likely that we will experience some form of anti-blackness. It is the same. It resonates on the same accord across all non-black communities. The disrespect that those black people were experiencing from Palestinians when they were going to help you, they were going to help Palestinians. It's the same disrespect that black people experienced at the hands of Ukrainians that they were going to help. It resonates the same. There is no difference. It has the same root, white supremacy. And it's not lost on me that you saw these black people fly over there to help, do everything in their power to ensure that they were on the front lines to help Palestinians. And that wasn't good enough for you to see them as allies, to respect what they were saying to you, to understand that in all of the stuff that's happening, why do you still have time for anti-blackness? Which just shows us that you also are anti-black and you don't respect the opinions, the words, or the lived experiences of black people. And you only weaponize our struggle to benefit yourselves. I'm going to tell all non-black communities this. Be so fucking for real with this shit. Be so fucking for real. If you want black people to care about you, then this is a basic requirement. A basic requirement. It is non-negotiable. If you want black people to care about you, your people, your causes, then you must respect us. And when you disrespect us, we are always going to point it out. Period. End of discussion. The fucking nerve.
This video unfortunately landed on my FYP and I had to put my phone down several times while watching it because of how inhumane everything that she was saying was. I have a lot of thoughts. I'm going to come back tomorrow when I'm more calm. But in the meantime, I want y'all to ask yourselves what you want black people to do when we're faced with racism. Since you're the expert on anti-blackness, tell us exactly what you want us to do when faced with racism. And I understand the nuances of going to a place that's occupied and experiencing racism. That is an extremely complicated place to be in. But the idea that black people in a situation who are more privileged in that moment than people who are under occupation should just let the racism roll off their backs like water is a wild, inhumane thing to say. Considering that the black people on your trip were having conversations amongst themselves, how were you involving yourself in those conversations about how they were dealing with the racism that they were facing that was not being directed towards you? Furthermore, another aspect of racism that people don't understand is the physical component. So when I was in Morocco, when I studied abroad there years ago, I got called the N-word every single day when I was walking to school. And I will say it actually didn't really bother me that much because in the moment I knew that I had the privilege in the situation. I was like, at the end of this, I'm going to go back to the US, to my private university, whatever. So long as you don't physically attack me, whatever. But guess what? Somebody on our trip did get physically attacked. Despite having privilege over her attackers, she still got attacked because of their racism. Racism has multiple avenues of being harmful to people. Your unwillingness to understand this is so beyond. I don't even take this video. I don't know why it's still up. This video is causing so much damage to the Black and Palestinian solidarity we're trying to build and continue that has existed for so long, despite Black people being faced with anti-Blackness from the people that we are being allied with. I'm not sure what is wrong with some of you, genuinely.
Accusing black people of doing the Oppression Olympics is a page right out of the white supremacist handbook. It's a popular passage, too. One of the most cited. So everybody should have spotted that and had all their sirens going off when that woman was doing her video. Right? Especially when she mentioned that she butted her head into their private conversation and then got upset about what they were talking about when they were discussing the racism they experienced. Right? They had a private conversation about something, and she got upset about their conversation that had nothing to do with her. That had to do with their experiences. right? But they weren't allowed to be upset about their experiences in front of this woman. Insane. That's so insane. There should not be two sides to this fucking discourse. The reality is obvious to anybody who isn't just grossly anti-black. Genuinely. It's insane there are two sides to this discourse.
One of the biggest lessons that I learned from the people in Palestine is to find beauty and positivity in every situation. And one of the people who taught me that was Abu Muhammad.
So in that beginning video I just stitched, this creator right here tells a story about how she took several black volunteers over to Palestine to help give out food and such, and that they came to her complaining about racism. He goes on to talk about how her black volunteers were complaining about people in Palestine being racist to them, and she basically told them to pretty much just get over it. So not only in her own story did she tell black people to cope and get over the racism they were experiencing, but I don't even think her story was true. First thing that tipped me off was she has posted hundreds of videos throughout social media, and none of them have been from Palestine. And number two, Palestine has been an active war zone for quite some time now. She wouldn't have been able to fly there, much less get those volunteers past Israeli checkpoints to go over there and help with that stuff. So not only did she expose herself as a blatant racist in her story, but I think she's lying about the whole thing.
This lady took a group of Black Americans to Palestine in order to help rebuild and give out food and nurture the people over there. And she got upset that the Black Americans had something to say about them being called slurs the whole time they were helping. I need her. She doesn't even realize that she produced a microform of chattel slavery. She took a group of black people to a whole different country in order to help them, receive food, rebuild their structure of their communities, be nurturing, all these things. She took a group of black people overseas in order to do that. And while they did that, they were being called slurs. She didn't get mad at the people calling them slurs. She got mad that the black people were reacting to the slurs. That's a micro form of chattel slavery if I've ever heard one, is it not? You want to degrade me while I help you? What the f?
I don't know what I was expecting from my trip to Palestine, but I certainly did not expect to walk away with racial tensions between myself and the black people in our group.
So let me get this straight. Old girl got in her feelings because black people who were in Palestine helping out non-black Palestinian people told her about their experiences of anti-blackness, and she decided to hop on the internet and crap on them for it, and then try to do the Oppression Olympics? And then you wonder why the pro-Pally movement in the States is dying.
So even though I wasn't going to speak on it about that girl's video that's circulating around where she's talking about where she thought that black people were going to be allies to people, and that our concept of what racism is in the West is not the same, and that the people over there that are expressing racism towards black people have it worse, they're more oppressed, and to talk about all the suffering that they experience, which is an excuse for their poor behavior. It's interesting that they can be experiencing all of these things. You talk about their oppression, their suffering, but then they still have time to be racist. And you want people in the West that are black to have a different understanding and extend a certain amount of grace to people because they're more oppressed, but they still found a way to still punch down on black people. That's what I'm hearing. That black people should ignore, disrespect, racism, and anti-blackness because another group of people are experiencing a different type of harm, but they still find a way to be harmful to black people. So like I said, y'all are excusing racism, and what you are using to excuse it is the fact that their people are being erased. And guess what? I'm sorry, if fundamentally you cannot condemn racism and look for an excuse for why you are not going to condemn it and say that this is not okay, I don't have anything else for you. You saying that allyship isn't going to be perfect? I'm sorry, not being racist isn't asking for perfection. It's the bare minimum.
I was always under the impression that black people will be our greatest ally.
I was really ready to listen to her, to hear her out in this video, but She starts by saying that the black people she went on this Palestine trip with to, help people in Palestine were being racist or playing the oppression Olympics, like, oh, I'm more oppressed than these people going through a genocide, just because they were pointing out the fact that there is anti-blackness in Palestine, which is something that I've recently found out before watching this video. It's sad. Those black people felt hurt. Their feelings were misunderstood and ignored by this woman because her feelings were hurt too. She felt personally attacked by the fact that a group of people that she was genetically connected to were racist or had anti-blackness in their hearts and in their culture. It is in Palestinian culture. Doesn't mean all Palestinians are anti-black, and that's not what those people were saying. She goes on to describe the words and actions of the people she went on this trip with, the black people, and to me it just sounded like similar to when I was in a group, like, or a space that I didn't feel very comfortable in, and I expressed that to my non-black friends, and they were like, oh, I didn't notice that, like, I didn't notice anybody being weird or racist to you. But they didn't say that. They didn't really blame me for it. They just understood that they can't always notice when stuff like that is happening and sympathize with me, which is what you should have done instead of making this video. She says that they were playing the oppression Olympics, but the only person playing the oppression Olympics was her. I mean, she says that she went on the trip to see if she could find parallels between the way that she is treated as a Palestinian American and the way that her friends are treated as Black Americans. Babe, there's no parallel. Like, there is no parallel. The experience is completely separate. Like, I don't really know what she was looking for there, but I mean, the racism that Palestinians face is very different than the racism that Black Americans face, because it's more systemic. I mean, not, Palestinian Americans, the ones who are from America. I think a lot of people don't realize that closeness to whiteness in communities of color kind of gets you a little bit more quote unquote privilege. And if you look at me and you look at her, which one of us is closest to whiteness? Which one of us has olive skin and like long straight hair? So the two experiences are not even comparable. So one, I think you were going on that trip to look for ways that you as an individual are more oppressed. And then you found the opposite. You found a bias within yourself that exists because your anger toward your Black friends for expressing this emotion is not rational. It is not something that an ally would do. It's not something that my friends would do. And I'm a little younger than you, 22. She also goes on to say that she talked to a group of Palestinians, like separate, like not alone from her Black friends, and she asked them about racism in Palestine, and they were like, no, those Black people are my brothers, they're fam, we love them. Like, that doesn't exist here. That is a common response from non-Black people in like other countries. It's like, if you are not Black, you cannot see it happening, so you wouldn't know if it's there or not. Your brain can't recognize something that you've never experienced before. So the fact that you asked non-Black people about anti-Blackness in Palestine tells me everything I need to know about you and about your ability to understand what is going on with Black people within the community. And then you go on to say at the end of the video that some people shouldn't be allies to Palestine because they hurt the movement. I don't think pointing out community's flaws is hurting their movement at all. If that were true, then I wouldn't talk about, homophobia in the Black community or something. I think that maybe you should take a step back from advocating for the Black community. I know you want to. I know you want to take this out on all black people, but you won't. But I think that from this video I can conclude that your activism is mostly performative, because that is crazy. That's a crazy thing to say. Like, I don't think you really understand how to listen to black voices. Maybe it's because it's your own people that are being held accountable this time, so you have a blindness towards that.
I don't even know where to start from, but the kindness of black people goes beyond words. They saw what this community did, and they saw this community discouraging people from voting Kamala. And there's still a group of those that, you know, had a kind heart, and they're like, you know what? Let's actually go and help. That's if she did not make up this story, because chances are these people make up stories just to bait the black community. And when black people respond, then they point at black people as the bad ones, right? They throw a stone and hide their hands. And that is very crazy. I don't know what forces them to do that, but I guess they feed off that energy. But for black people to know you are against the candidate they were supporting, and they still continue to support you, that shows you the kind of people that we are, that we know we definitely identify with oppression. To be honest, she's talking about, black people are not allies simply because they called out, racism and anti-blackness, and them being called slurs in a country where they went to just help. Imagine you going to help someone and then they end up calling you a slur. Like, what would you do? Like, would you just be quiet, right? And then you're saying that black people don't identify with the struggle. In the first place, the reason as to why they went to help is because they identify with the struggle. They know what oppression feels like and they want to help. Like, the hypocrisy in some of these influencers is just ridiculous. I can't lie. Like, yeah. Why would you think they would want to even come and volunteer if they don't know how oppressed these people are? But it also hurts to go and help someone, and then that someone turns against you and they start calling you the N-word and all those slurs and the stereotypes that palm-colored people, fed them. The thing is, colonialism just did a number on all people. And let's not lie that colonialism didn't do a number on the Palestinian people, right? It did a number as well on them. They have a way they view black people, right? And it's so crazy that our people even continue to be graceful and merciful to them. But which I feel like that's who we are naturally. If you treat us really good, we actually know how to, fight for other people. And I feel like, to be honest, for the black people, if this story is not faked, for the black people that went to help, I think the best thing to do, you would have probably coordinated with other black activist groups that are helping people in Congo, people in Sudan, people in Chad, people in different countries that are struggling, that are going through genocides as well, because these genocides don't get talked about that much. We make videos, right? But again, it looks like the videos that are talking about the black people struggles, they don't get anywhere. When black people struggle, let's just be honest, even when with the struggles of black people in America, none of these people really identify and be allies to the struggles of black people. But then they want, every time there's something wrong and bad that is happening in their communities, they want to force black people to identify and be allies with their communities, when these people harbor anti-blackness and they're low-key racist, and they want black people to just move on. That is easy, because these things are not happening to you. Some of these things are very traumatic. They remind you of the trauma that you face in the US, and even when you go out of the US, you face that. Like, seriously, it should be different, shouldn't it? And I think these people have even been talking about how there's anti-blackness in their own communities. And now for them to turn the tape and be like, black people are playing the whatever victim Olympics, like, really? Who is more oppressed? They were not talking about their oppression, They're just calling out. If you say these things, why don't you call them out in your community so that they get fixed? Which means you don't have a problem. That's what black people are saying. You don't have a problem with this. Yeah? You want your group to be oppressed, right? But because they are oppressed, they also want to oppress others and transfer their trauma on others. And I feel like they're better than. Imagine that. Imagine that, right? You want them to feel like they are better than these black people, and that is okay. You are not supposed to call that out, and black people should be quiet and swallow the pill, right? Is that how things are supposed to be? Like, how do things get fixed if they don't get talked about and black people are not even complaining? But anywho, I don't know what you guys think, but I feel like this entire thing of black people continuously trying to, get to be seen as the good ones. The thing is, even if you do the good thing, even if you identify with them, even if you be an ally, they will never appreciate you. They will call you the slurs. They will do whatever they want to do, because at the end of the day, that is who they are. They sucked white supremacy, and the white supremacy has convinced them that if you are a light shader and you have a more straighter hair and a sharp nose, you are better than the N-words. They are not human enough, White supremacy has convinced them that they are next on the hierarchy, and therefore they should use and take that advantage to oppress, and just really down look on black people and just, yeah. But anywho, I don't know what you people think. I want you to put your thoughts in the comment section and subscribe to the channel, like the video. Let me know what you think in the comment section about this very episode. I think for me for today, that's it. My name is Gracie and I love all of you. Until then, I'll see you in another amazing video. Bye.